Here we go. It's 4:30. Time to start our CAMPO meeting of November 12th, 2025. Glad to see folks made it through the maze of orange cones and everything out there. So we'll be talking about that under RTC. So CAMPO, could I have the roll call, please?
Chair Novak,
Here.
Vice Chair Maloney.
Here.
Member Bagwell. Here. Member Casanelli.
Here.
Member Dodson.
Here.
Member Erb. Here. Member Schutte. Here. Ex officio Member Capeller.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Okay, thank you. Move on to item 3. This is our first opportunity for public comment. We have a couple of action items on the agenda, and there's a final public comment item later on. So does anybody want to speak at our first opportunity for public comment? If so, come on up.
Brianna Cowan, thank you all so much for allowing public comment. I've had the opportunity to meet several of you, and I'm thankful. I'm here to let you know that I am running for State Assembly, District 39, that's 39, and I look forward to having very productive conversations with many of you, how we can get our roads safe and help the residents of our communities, and I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak at this point? All righty. Yep, okay, last call. Okay. All right, let's go to item number 4, possible action, approval of our minutes of the October 8th, 2025 meeting. And as most of you have heard, our minute expert, this is her last meeting. She'll be retiring. And I have never had a problem with the minutes, let's put it that way. Okay.
You have to match Supervisor Giomi, our perfect, beautiful minutes. Sorry. He laid it on thick, I will tell you that. But she deserves it.
I would like to move approval of the minutes.
I have an approval and a second. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? The motion passes unanimously. All right, we're moving on to our public meeting item. 5A for action, discussion and possible action regarding the status, recommendations, and potential approval of the US 50 East Carson Complete Streets Corridor Study. And Kelly, you're going to be walking us through that. And, looking at the history of this, we've been dealing with it for a couple of years now. And with your lead and some good consultant help and a lot of public input, I think we're coming to the end of the study. So we'd like to hear what your recommendations are. And thank you for all your work to date.
Thank you, Chair Novak. Kelly Norman, Senior Transportation Planner for the Carson Area MPO. I'd like to introduce Jeff Hale. He will be walking us through the presentation today, which is a summary of the culmination of the study. The appendices I want to add are being added to the website. So just FYI, there's a lot of data to support the study itself. And Jeff Hale from Parametrics will be leading us through the presentation.
Ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, good afternoon, members of the commission. Thank you for your time. Here we are, about 2 years into the study, finally in front of you with a summary recommendation. Let's see if I can get this thing going. The study area expanded to include the Mound House area, begins at I-580, extending easterly to 341, the junction out in Mound House. We developed it over 2 phases. The initial phase report was presented last year, had some ideas that we brought forward that could be incorporated into the NDOT project that they're developing. Some of those were picked up, some of those weren't. We kind of moved on and advanced our recommendations beyond that. Also extending the limits to the east helped us evaluate the Mound House area. Everybody knows there's some issues with that roadway out there. We did a robust stakeholder engagement. We developed some online surveys, engaged the people to understand their experiences throughout the corridor, or with the corridor, I guess. Surveys, a fact sheet, we made those available through in-person walks. We did a business walk, teamed up and gave the information to businesses along the corridor, engage with people, talk to them about their experiences. We also conducted a social media campaign, used the Carson Now website to get the word out. Emails, phone calls. We ultimately ended up with about 940 responses to our survey, a lot of good input. A lot of people had very good information about how they travel the corridor. Most of the responses, I would say, reflected people's concerns about congestion and reliability of their trip through the corridor. They want to be able to plan their day and start by leaving the house and getting to work when they expect to, and that is weighing on their minds. We did conduct two public meetings, two in-person public meetings. One was in Dayton at the community center, and then one was in, well, right here, a few months ago. So we wanted to get an idea of people's perceptions of the corridor and give us some feedback. Does congestion impact their mobility? It does. Time of day, direction of travel, people felt like the AM peak coming into town was more congested. There's a lot of difficulty, a lot of comments about difficulty of making left turns. And then we provided some, we provided some possible improvement options, kind of wanted to get a sense of what people's appetite for improvements were, including, we had a little sketch of a roundabout, a restricted crossing U-turn, which we actually ended up recommending out in Mount House, a high T intersection, and a signalized intersection, just kind of gauge people's appetite. Surprisingly, everything was very favorable, including the roundabout. Ultimately, people desire a safe and efficient transportation system. We did a detailed data analysis, starting with crash data. We did a 5-year look at 2018 through 2023. There were 6 fatalities within that period. NDOT supplemented that data with some information into 2024. Ultimately, we figured there were 10 fatalities out there. 5 of those involved pedestrians. The highest number of crashes, as you can see on the map, there's a heat map there, occur in the 580 interchange area to Lampa Lane, Airport Road. Mostly corridor-wide rear-end crashes made up the most, followed by angle crashes or people turning to and from the roadway. Lighting was a contributing factor in the pedestrian-involved crashes. 2 pedestrian hybrid beacon systems are in our study. One of those is being installed by NDOT as part of their project. They're going to upgrade the RRFB at near Silver Street, and then we recommended one to go in earlier rather than later at Highlands Drive. Some of the other things that we recommend that will help mitigate some of the pedestrian issues include development of the adjacent MUPs. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, but multi-use paths, getting people to safe intersections, safe crossing systems will really help. Median islands in the Mound House area, as access management is developed, will provide opportunity for pedestrians to have a refuge area in the median. If you drive in Mound House, you see people waiting across the road, waiting for their gap. They have a long way to run. So we're aware of that. Next slide. So then we took our traffic data, traffic counts performed for the corridor, supplemented that with NDOT Trina data. We created a existing conditions model, average volume 25,000 to 30,500 vehicles a day. According to the data, the level of service is worse in the PM, which is interesting that people's perception is it's worse in the AM coming in westbound. Airport and College experience more delay than any others in the corridor. And then each intersection with a level of service E that you can see on the table there or worse, E or F, occurs at the stop-controlled intersections or at a signal. So it's people trying to get onto US 50, that's where the problems are. Corridor mobility issues that we identified, operations involving congestion and reliability concerns, safety that I talked about, access management, a lot of driveways in the corridor that you can see. You know, the data proves what the eye can see. There can be issues in each one of these categories. Some of these will be improved as part of the NDOT project, which is planned for construction in 2027. They're planning on improving the corridor from the interchange out to Deer Run, I believe. And then they'll include signal system improvements, ADA upgrades. They're going to pave the multi-use path along the north side, upgrade their signage. They're also going to pave driveways, which was one of the recommendations we brought forward last year. One of the comments we had from people was they have a hard time seeing where to turn when they're turning into driveways, especially in the Carson area. So paving those and improving the delineation will help people make that turn instead of driving into the ditch, which people told us they had done. The pedestrian hybrid upgrade, and then they're also going to do a medium barrier from Brown to College to help prevent people from just running across the road there. So what do we do? What do we do with what we have done? Basically, we collected a lot of data, took a good look at the corridor, we added public and stakeholder input, we developed a vision for what we wanted to do. We evaluated safety data and trends. We then identified and applied tools, improvement recommendations, and then we measured the effectiveness. And we did that, one of the ways that we did that was through the identification of crash mitigation factors. And what that is essentially studies that are done for each of the improvements and what their effect in reducing or mitigating crashes can be. So in this table here, a crash modification factor of say 0.56 for the dilemma zone protector system that would be picked off the Crash Modification Clearinghouse. It's a web tool. So that would mean that a value of less than 1 represents a reduction in predicted crashes. CMF higher than 1 would mean that the improvement doesn't work very well. You're going to have an increase. So greater than 1 would be an increase. CMF of 0.56 would represent about a 44% reduction in predicted crashes. So that's kind of how that works. That is how that works, not kind of. So then moving on with what we did, our data, we built a synchro model, traffic model. We modeled the 2050 traffic volumes with the corridor with no improvements, and then we put our improvements in to see what the 2050 traffic volumes would look like. You can see how that changed with the 2050 build in the AM and PM peaks. We have a lot less red, orange. Some of the areas didn't fix it, as you can see, but it fixed the problem on the left side, but there's still a slight problem. One of those I want to point out is at Arrowhead, the eastbound through still is a level of service F, which means that adding turn lanes is not going to fix it. Doing signal system improvements is not going to fix it. You need to add through lanes. Adding through lanes in the Carson area, 3 lanes in each direction. We didn't recommend that be done to address traffic volumes beyond 2050. That really requires a much larger study because you're going to introduce a huge safety problem with the left turn movements. People trying to get across 3 lanes, get into the center turn lane. We felt like that was not a good solution for long term, or at least it requires a more regional policy level discussion. Moving forward then, we developed a menu of improvements, a list of specific improvements that are shown on the table. And the table, as you can see, we provided a description and a corresponding map on the right side. And then a little more detail about the specific location or extent of the improvement. cost in 2025, today's dollars. And then just an indication on the severity or the intensity of right-of-way acquisition by using none or low, medium, high. And then implementation timeframe over the course of 20, 25 years. And then what goal area that specific improvement would speak to. There is some fine print in the text to clarify some things. Some of this got cut off in the presentation, but it is in the report, so that's important information as well. Back up to this one. In the first part of the study area, we had signal system improvements. Excuse me. Some signal system improvements. In the most intensive part of the corridor, some free right turn lanes, a high T at Brown Street, free right turn lane northbound to Fairview to eastbound 50, multi-use path improvements. Moving on through the corridor to the east, some frontage road recommendations. Those are two-way frontage roads, signalized and unsignalized high Ts at some of the other intersections out there, right turn lane improvements. And then moving up the hill, we had a truck climbing lane that we thought would help. Signalized high T installation at the existing high T at Flint Drive, and a multi-use path connecting Mound House on the west side of the road. Some of the other things as we move out to Mound House, corridor roadway lighting out there, some right in, right out, basically access control. A pedestrian hybrid beacon, we would like to see that go forward early at Highland Drive. We did come up with a signalized intersection improvement there that would really help things. Right in, right out at Bunny Ranch Boulevard, restricted crossing U-turn at Newman. That's one of those innovative intersection designs that would help people make a safer left turn across traffic. Unsignalized high T, Kit Kat, and then a roundabout at 341. NDOT did do an intersection control evaluation for that intersection. They considered a roundabout and a signal system. They only considered a three-legged intersection. So what we think is combined with mobility improvements in the Mound House area, you should have a four-legged either roundabout or signal system. The roundabout in their report was predicted to fail or need modifications in the year 2040, with the signal system being the long term. But if you put a roundabout in there, there's things you could do to keep it operating for the long term. Mound House improvements, both sides. And that is the extent of the recommendations we're bringing forward. Lastly, get my notes. This list is an example of each of these features that we brought forward. A few things to note. There was somewhat of a different vision, I guess, from Lyon County to Carson about what Mound House should look like. Should it be a controlled access freeway style roadway? We considered that, talked about it in our project team, within our project team. Freeway style improvements or interchange connections create a lot of access problems that we feel would far outweigh the benefits. Interchange itself would be $25 to $30 million. So that's why we didn't forward a recommendation for a full-on interchange. Overall, the corridor is complex, serves a lot of needs. It can be made safer and accessible through the improvements that we've studied and put forth as achievable and are fundable, frankly. That rounds out my presentation. Any questions?
Well, as chair, I will start, but I hope we get some comments from everybody up here, because again, it's an important corridor, and we've been looking at it for a couple of years now. I think, a key point, it is NDOT's roadway, and it sounds like NDOT has agreed to most of what's in here and try to implement as much as they can on their upcoming pavement projects. So I think that's a success. The timing was good on that. There's a couple of little things that I wasn't quite sure of. I didn't really see anything on actual speeds. I know you looked at posted limits, but I don't know if there's any data of how fast people are actually going. And I would expect it's pretty fast coming down the hill. So anytime we're talking about new traffic signals on a grade, I have concerns. And associated with that, it's not in the report, but I thought at some point Draco gets a traffic signal as part of the Planning Commission approval for that development. So I don't know, have you add that into the report, or it happens or not in the future, but that was a hole that I saw in the reports that, hey, wait a minute, something's happening out there. Similarly, the parks folks were talking about a back way into Centennial Park, and I don't think that's going anyplace at this point, but it's still being considered out there. And again, it's all within this corridor. So, okay. And on the, since it is NDOT's roadway, we fall under their access control, access management standards. RTC later on, we're talking about for Carson City to see if we can develop our own. But I think the general concepts you guys have here fit that overall access management model, which we've seen to be a proven safety countermeasure. So I'll stop with that initial overview, and if there's some other comments folks would like to make at this point.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I was just interested on the menu of improvements, that the longer time frame for 9, 10, or 9 through 13. What determines the time frames that the implementation time frames? I just see like the high Ts to be out, 20 plus years. What was the determining factor with that?
We looked at traffic volumes in the regional model to get an idea of when those improvements would start to show significant benefit or remarkable benefit, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So the travel demand model was a resource for how those improvements would lay in over that 20-year time frame.
So under the current use or the current volume, there really wouldn't be a
I wouldn't say
significant
there
benefit?
wouldn't be an improvement, but
Not cost effective.
obviously we're sensitive to funding streams and how the funding becomes available. So that was also a background thought, was when could these be logically funded?
Right.
We think the high T projects are low-hanging fruit. When you start to signalize things, then maybe it's better to do that with some of the other NDOT improvements that are coming in and for technology, getting the fiber network established. Those are some of the other considerations that we thought about as we recommended what time period to put these improvements.
Great, thank you.
I would also like to add, Kelly Norman, Senior Transportation Planner, that all of these projects along the NDOT roadway will have to go through the NDOT One Nevada process in order to prioritize them for NDOT priorities as well. We've also added some of those projects to the draft RTP to be prioritized as well. So the actual priorities, may, although these are guidelines, right? So.
You're saying essentially there's not a fixed sequence of improvements at this point, but we've got this master list and you're going to try and get them in some order so things get better each time.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Any other comments, John?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and Castanelli from Lyon for the record. And I'm pleased overall with the outcome of the study, and I think everything that I was hoping for the Mound House corridor anyway is in there. We knew the realignment at Red Rock and Highlands was going to be a chunk of money, so not real surprised there. I'm glad to see the roadway lighting and the pedestrian hybrid beacons on the shorter track. That's desperately needed out there. I was hoping we could go one step further and do a truck lane on the westbound as well on the Dayton Hill, but overall pleased with what I see here. And I think we can live with the time frame. Well, I have to sell it to my constituents, but looks good to me. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the group here? No. It's a good report.
Very.
And another item that I'd also like to mention is that roadways, as we build them, kind of last forever. Land use changes all the time. And between the vacant property and redevelopment within this whole corridor, I think between Carson City planning and Lyon County planning, there's enough discussion back and forth to refer to this. You know, what if you didn't have to cross the road in Mound House? What if, right? And if a developer had something on the other side of the road, that would be good for everybody. It's, you know, beyond our jurisdiction here, but, you know, if it makes sense, somebody would do it.
Well, and I think it was a valid point. I think since they started, we've added Draco. So like you said, stuff is always changing, and so it's very difficult to keep reports up to date with every moment of things happening. It's tough because it's always changing. But yes, Draco has a condition or something in there that says it such and such a lot or such and such a thing that it will add
And
a light.
Right, at that point,
Right, and so I don't know if there's an ability to just add that comment in since it is on this corridor. I don't think it would hurt to put the condition that people are aware if this is supposed to last us a little while. Hopefully, it's lasting us a little while.
the consultant contract is almost over.
Right, right, so just a comment, whatever. I think it's a good ad, since we know about it. Good report.
Since this is an action item, if there's any of the folks of the public that want to come up at this point and state, you know, your opinion on any of this, come right up.
Good evening. My name's Loretta Marson. I've lived in Carson City since 1969 out on Highway 50. Totally, I've seen a change out there, especially with the development of Lyon County and the homes. I live right by Sherman Lane and the post office, and I'm glad you guys have seen the incidents of accidents out there. When it's a weekday, by the evening hours, if I don't hear sirens, I'm surprised. It's too fast. 45-mile speed limit going into town doesn't start until you get somewhere by Mavericks. And those people are traveling 60 at least, and then they have to come to a 45-mile slowdown, and that's right close to the signal light. So I cannot tell you how many times people want to go through that red light. In the morning when I go to school to work, I get into the left lane to turn to go by on Fairview. Again, there's semi-trucks. 45 miles where the sign is, and there's trees there. So those trees kind of hide that 45 mile an hour. And so for those people that try to stop, it's impossible, and they're going through the red lights. Getting into my property is another fun thing. I'm in the turning lane to turn left, and I'm stuck there, especially if it's a certain time of the morning, if I'm trying to get out to go west or coming home. Traffic is insane out there. And the speeding, where it's 55 miles from Mavericks to go to east, they're already like race drivers. It's like 0 to 60, you know? And I'm so infuriated seeing these people just being rude and just speeding, and then they're doing all their crazy, insane lane changing, and they get behind you, and then we're trying to make our left onto our street, and they're tailgating. And so my biggest concern is the speed limit out there. I know years ago when we were coming down the hill, there used to be a signal light there at Deer Run, and it used to flash when it was going to maybe change. And over the years, that got changed, and now it just yellow, caution. So those people aren't even trying to slow down. So I'm just glad you guys are finally really looking at Highway 50. I know the Department of Transportation has a big say in all this. But with the new housing development that is going out there, more traffic, again, I'm glad to see you guys are working on this. But like I said, the speeding and the signage out there, something needs to be done. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Good. Anybody else want to speak up at this point? Okay. Seeing none, any other discussion up here at all? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll do it. I move to approve this study with the addition of comments concerning updates for the Draco development.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
And then just as a side note, since we did it and we had public comment concerning it, can we have a report? Because I know that they do have studies that talk about the speeds out there and anything. And just at a later date, can you bring back an agenda item that we can just kind of see what's going on?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, status.
What's the status? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, NDOT's project is still under design and it'll get advertised and
Do
built.
we have anything that we should be looking at? So, thank you.
Thanks, that's why we have these meetings.
Yes.
All right. Agenda item 5B for discussion only. Discussion and presentation regarding the draft Carson Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, CAMPO's 2050 Regional Transportation Plan. And Ms. Norman, you're still up. And you've been working on this one for quite a bit of time, too.
Yes, we have. Thank you. So the process to update the CAMPO 2050 RTP began earlier this year in February. Staff updated the vision and goals consistent with local, state, and federal agencies and in support of the CAMPO board. Staff engaged the public through the update process, including a public survey that was open May through July. This public feedback influenced the project selection, which emphasized safety, connectivity, and preservation of existing infrastructure. Staff researched the land use and transportation connection, where housing and employment are expected to grow. US 395 and US 50 East will continue to get more congested into the future, and planning both safety and capacity issues will be a priority for staff. CAMPO will work with NDOT in planning for the long-awaited I-580, US 395, US 50 interchange. Staff's also updating the Coordinated Human Services Plan for transit. Staff will need to consider the funding challenges faced after 2036. Without additional local funding, transit will face trade-offs, including adjusting the service area, reducing service delays or hours, or other measures subject to future board actions. In addition, pavement condition is the single greatest transportation cost over the next 25 years. Without increased investment in roadway pavement, the condition of roadways will continue to deteriorate. The CAMPO 2050 RTP outlines a financial plan which demonstrates fiscal constraint and feasibility under federal law. CAMPO is reasonably expected to have $878 million between 2026 and 2050. The total fiscally constrained projects programmed within the CAMPO 2050 RTP total $800 million. CAMPO used the 6 goal areas of safety, quality of life, mobility, prosperity, adaptability, and preservation to prioritize all of the projects within the region, leading to the list in Appendix A and Exhibit 2. Exhibit A has the fiscally constrained, unconstrained, and unfunded projects. So there are 32 fiscally constrained projects from 26 to 35, 13 fiscally constrained projects from 2035 to 2050, and a list of 32 unfunded projects. A 30-day public comment period was open on November 5th and will be open through December 5th. A press release went out earlier last week. A legal ad was placed in the Nevada Appeal. Staff is also advertising in the November 15th Nevada Appeal, advertising the 3 open public comment periods that CAMPO's staff is having to really go through the RTP with them. November 17th at the Carson City Community Center in the Bonanza Room, November 18th at the Dayton Valley Library Meeting Room in Lyon County, and November 20th at the Jacks Valley Elementary School. I believe it's in the library. That's in Douglas County. Staff plan to give an update on the public comments that have been received and edits in December, and present the final draft for board approval in January. Staff has received 3 public comments so far, and we're keeping a list. The consultant performing the travel demand update and staff needed extra time to review the travel demand document, the appendix. So Appendix D was added to the draft RTP document and is on the CAMPO website now. Staff can also provide a copy for the board if you would like as well. In addition, after all public comments are received, there will be a full QA/QC on all of the missed periods and misspellings and all of the little things. So please know that there will be that. Thank you.
Well, good. That's one reason our packet is 223 pages this month. I've talked to them and sent them some comments back and forth, and I think the key is it's still a draft. It's out for public comment. It's going through a process that we've had enough public input and outreach and looking at everything that's been done to date. I think there's one figure here that shows like the last 25 years of how we got here.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very thorough effort, and I think the format is fairly good. You know, the way you've decided to show all this stuff. So it's all in there. And I don't think we want to get into a discussion about all the individual projects and where they rank today. But I think you've followed through on what we've approved in the past using our input and the formulas and how you rank everything. So at this point, I'll just open it up to any other comments here, but I think it's a work in progress. And I think you guys have been working. And how long did it take you to come up with that project list? How many iterations?
Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. We started the project lists at the beginning of July. End of June is when we started developing the projects and released the project list to agencies thereafter and worked back and forth.
Okay. And, you know, just to also emphasize, it's Carson City and Douglas and Lyon. So it's the full CAMPO, boundary, which might change between now and 2050, but we can't predict, just like the funding sources will guaranteed will change. But I think you've got it fiscally constrained, and I think you have the option to go after whatever competitive grants are possible out there. So I think, I trust staff to keep up their professional standards, and I'm really happy with the draft product. So do we have any other comments from the group at this point?
I do. So can we go to page 98 of the document? And I see that it indicates that we're having a challenge with one of the statutes on 277A concerning NDOT with equipment and interlocals. Can you give me a little more briefing on that? Is it something that they've been doing and yet they now have a legal opinion that says they can't do it that way? What do you mean by this comment in here?
I'll take this one. Thank you, Member Bagwell. We coordinate with NDOT related to the operation of our traffic signals. So NDOT maintains, or I should say, NDOT owns most of the traffic signals on NDOT facilities. And there are various agreements with the counties and local jurisdictions to maintain those. Updating those and reviewing those and coordinating those and figuring some of those out, especially on some of the older intersections, needs some work and needs some doing. And so to allow staff to continue to, this item is to allow staff to continue to work through and make those agreements a little bit more robust, coordinate with the local agencies, and figure out that process so that NDOT can provide information and materials to maintain and rebuild and repair their signals without using our dollars to do that for those types of infrastructure improvements. I feel like I've missed the mark on that one, though.
Well, so the need for it to be in this document is to articulate what? I guess that's what I'm after here, that you put it in a document and it's solely to enlighten us all that we need a new document or new methodology to ensure that we're not using CAMPO dollars, that we should be using direct NDOT, because the next one then has a thought process that we're supposed to have our own dedicated annual budgets. So that's really what I'm looking at, is that coordinate between these two issues, is that each of the partner agencies should have a budget for lighting equipment, and we don't currently.
I will try to clarify. Thank you.
I think that's what I'm not getting this connection.
Currently, there are multiple agreements for multiple signals across the area. So if an intersection goes in with a traffic signal, it has in the past received one agreement for that intersection. The next one goes in, there's an agreement for that intersection. The next one goes in, there's an agreement for that intersection. And over the years, there are 70-something signals in the Campo region. Not all of them are NDOT, but let's say that half of them are. That means there potentially are, 35 different agreements. And so the idea here is to work with NDOT, work with the partner agencies to come together and figure out the way to develop a master signal agreement such that everybody's on the same page, everybody agrees to at every intersection who's paying for what. Is NDOT paying for the materials and the locals paying for the maintenance? Is NDOT paying for everything? How do we seek reimbursement for all these things? That's the idea with this comment, is to simplify, streamline, and put under a single agreement umbrella our traffic signal system so that we're not operating under, which agreement is this one under? That's this one. Nope, that's the wrong one. We've got an updated. It can get clunky and cumbersome at times. So that's more of what this topic is focused on.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I actually like the way that you just made the statement that your objective here, and I think it should be clarified, is that the actual recommendation is to develop a master service agreement, right? To say, okay, Douglas signs on, Lions, who's ever doing this together on lights, we're going to lay out the rules for everybody. And then the lights are just identified as to whose it is and what the master service agreement indicates. So if you can work to clarify that better in the next iteration, because I think you're on to something there, that it makes sense to come to a master agreement instead of 70 different light agreements, and then every time you turn around, you're trying to find the right document to the right light.
Definitely.
Sounded terrible.
We can work
Shed
on some of that.
light on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I would really appreciate that. I think that would add clarity to the report, and great job. I think the other thing for me, when it's not a concern, it's just a discussion point that I think is important, is really dealing with the Jack bus system. I think there are many schools of thoughts that deal with this system. We are continually asked to do expansions for some people that would like us to add a bus stop or to, right? And I think this report does a good job going into saying, but if you do that, you expand an expense that may cross county lines, right? And it's like, wait a second. And so I'd like to see a little more robust discussion too, because it's everyone saying, okay, the right thing to do is to try and encourage more use of the Jack bus, right? The more cars we can get off the road, that's better. You want to use a Jack bus. However, on the flip side of that is if I were to expand a bus stop and add 4 people to that bus stop, and the cost to do that was $25,000 more dollars a year. It makes no sense to do that. So I don't know that I thought that the discussion point was really robust enough, and I think we owe that to the public for a discussion on Jack Bus, because I think I just don't think we address it well. And so if you're a current user or you want to use the bus, you want more bus stops. Some of the general public looking at it says, are you nuts? I don't even ever see a bus with more than 2 people on it. Why would we expand? And so anything we can do within this document to make sure it matches strategic plans, money plans, finance, if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say here is I just think you have 2 schools of thought, right? Because I have people that want me to fix roads. Same thing, I'm sure in Lyon County, fix this bridge, fix this thing, and what takes the priority? And so when I look at this report, I don't know that it's helping me with the priorities. It's saying, this is what we want to do for Jack. This is what we want to do. Does that make sense where I'm kind of going? It's like, yeah, it's a great idea, but does it really rise to the cream of all the transportation and traffic issues that we have in Carson City? And certainly Lyon and others can speak for their own.
I think there's additional transit planning that is underway at this point, right? Just like, we just approved the 50 corridor plan. Well, that should probably be folded into this as well.
Yeah.
And again, it's the draft and trying to pull all these pieces together. I think,
Mr. Chair, if I may, and
Sure.
I wanted to just respond briefly, is the regional transportation plan, and Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong here, has kind of gotten out ahead a little bit of the transit development plan. We are very close on a draft of that and bringing that draft to this board as well as the Transit Development Coordinated Human Services Plan. This does incorporate some of those high-level preliminary results from that analysis, but to your point, was we're not quite ready for that plan to be live yet, and so that is coming to have, in part, some of that discussion.
Really love that. I just won't feel comfortable until I have the other pieces, right? Because for me, I want to make sure that we have continuity across all of our plans, and I meet whatever. I don't say one thing in this plan and then I say something else in another plan. I'm like, oops. And it's the same street or it's the same project. And yet we have 2 vastly different perspectives or thoughts on that. So anything you can do on that, I'd be most appreciative. And you guys, I just want to also say great job really trying to identify all the sectors, subjects, and things that we need to address. I hope that it is good for the public to understand it's not a one-size-fits-all answer, and that how complex all of this transportation stuff is. So great job.
good. Any other members? Sure.
I think to build on the not a one-size-fits-all, it's also so many different levels. So back to the Jack conversation, on 411, the current and future population, that opening line over the next 25 years, demand for the transportation system will grow and evolve. And that made me think immediately of Jack. And perhaps evolution can be guided or mitigated, the needs. And I think about some of the conversations in different meetings and how do we, how can we help people who don't have transportation get to their places of employment, or who struggle with transportation get to their medical appointments, those kinds of things. And thinking long-term and the evolution of transportation and the availability of different options, I believe is critical. And so I really appreciated that particular statement because it addresses so much. And then further on the 453, short-term fiscally constrained transit projects, identify options for further system optimization and ways to best provide the best customer service within the limited resources that we have. And so how do we take that all into account? So thank you.
And if I could add just a small piece to that, because I can see two partners sitting here, and I think individuals in Mound House or things like that, and not that you want to transport people to come into Carson City from Mound House, but I think there may be a large need there because it is where their doctors are. It is where some access points they truly need. But I don't know if there's further discussions or things that are going to happen in a transit plan, but we're going to need you to partner with us. I think that's really what I'm trying to get to the point, because we also have it on the other side. People are asking me all the time to take them over to the Douglas County line and put a stop there so they can get to work up in that arena up there. But the problem is I then would have to service Douglas County residents with the Jack Assist, or Mound House residents with the Jack Assist, which is super expensive, but by law, I would not have a choice, right? Because if I have a bus stop there, I have to do it. And I am, I will just say it clearly, I do not want to spend Carson City road transportation resources to serve your clients or your constituency. I don't want to do that. I don't have enough money to fix my potholes. I don't think I can explain adding a service line to residents of Mound House or residents of Douglas County, but I would have no problem doing cooperative agreements with you to put bus stops and you pay for that portion or whatever. So I think that's something as time is going on that we'll have to work together on to be able to, if you want, right? If you want.
Any other comments here? Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I love the new look and feel of the report. It's just really outstanding job. I think just more broad comment, not a lot of people understand how transportation planning really impacts them. Residents want their road fixed, and then they don't get it why it's 10 years later and we're still talking about Empire Ranch or whatever it is, right? And the first agenda item tonight was that serves as like a preliminary, what do we need on a corridor? And then the next step is, once we identify projects, let's get it into our long-range plan, and that's the second agenda item. And then from there, it can go into a short-range funded plan, right, which is our transportation improvement program. And then all of a sudden, we're getting money, and we're building it like William Street, right? And it's a very long process, and residents are very patient with us. My question for staff, this whole agenda is very good. Are there any recommendations from the first agenda item tonight that will be rolled into the RTP that we haven't seen yet in this draft so far? Or is there anything, or will that come maybe in the future? Or is it already in here? Can you tie them together for me?
Perhaps the transportation manager can talk in more detail. However, I
Sorry, it didn't mean to be like a trick question at all.
there are US 50 projects from 5A that were incorporated and prioritized along with the other list of projects within the draft for consideration within the CAMPO board. I know that the Highlands and US 50 project prioritized well and is in the funded category, as well as the US 50 corridor improvements, I think is a group of projects listed within the US 50 East Carson corridor plan. I don't know if you have anything else to add,
That's perfect. So just so the public
but they
understands,
are prioritized.
you guys have done almost 2 stages of the planning process, and we're integrating them into the project list tonight. And it's a tremendous, really good job. Thank you.
John?
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, just speak to what you were saying earlier, and I've spoken with Supervisor Schutte about this before, my vision and my hope is eventually have a Lyon County bus that can bring our residents in to the existing Jack hub with little to no impact to Jack, and that way our citizens can then take whatever route they wish on the Jack system for shopping or doctors or school or whatever it is. So unfortunately, I think that's just one of the many things that I'm working on. But yeah, that is kind of my plan, and hopefully with little impact. But I may need help getting a bus one of these days. But yeah, but yes, that is my hope. So.
I'm guessing that wouldn't be just from Mound House, it'd probably be from Dayton, whatever you can pull together, right? Yeah. Right, all the way in.
It's great.
Good, good. Any other questions or comments here? All righty. And kind of like I mentioned under the previous item, that land use transportation balance, it's part of this as well. You know, what goes in Mound House, what goes in North Douglas, the portion that
It impacts
is
us.
Carson City's mailing address. I think there's enough projects in here that you guys did a really good job on what a transportation plan's supposed to be. So this is a discussion-only item, but if there's anybody from the public who wants to speak, and now come on up, but we have public meetings next week, and it's out there for comments. So I would say, take the time to read through it. There's a lot to it, and we can definitely improve this with whatever public comments we do get. Okay. All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to our next item. If I got it right, 6A. Chris, the Transportation Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. Wanted to highlight a couple of items. The first in regards to federal reauthorization of the Surface Transportation Bill. There's been little progress over the last couple of months due to the government shutdown, but I believe there are still conversations going on in the background. The Local Officials in Transportation Coalition, otherwise known as the LOT Coalition, which is made up of representatives from the Association Metropolitan Planning Organizations, the National Association of Counties, National Associated Development Organizations, the National League of Cities, the National Association of Regional Councils, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors, issued a letter to the leaders in the Senate and House of Representatives related to the infrastructure reauthorization, and indicated there's a focus on local streets. This organization would like to see more transportation dollars collected through the Highway Trust Fund to be dedicated to locally owned streets as well as local streets. They indicated that, 43% of the roads in the United States are local streets and are not part of the national highway system, and carrying 1/3 of all the vehicles, and yet none of the highway transportation dollars go to those types of roads. So an emphasis, in the county and city level, as well as the MPO level, to hopefully get some additional funding from a federal level to fund all of our local streets across the country. So that was one of the takeaways I wanted to highlight on this board, as it's been a discussion I know in Douglas County and Carson City related to roadway funding. Other items I wanted to mention too is this week is Crash Responder Safety Week. Wanted to recognize our crash responders, first responders out there, our police and fire and EMTs, and as well as tow truck drivers and public works crews who respond to crashes and clean up those and get the roads back operational. So I just wanted to mention that out there. This is Crash Responder Safety Week this week. Reiterate the public meetings that we're having next week, the 3 public meetings on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Carson City, Lyon County, and Douglas County at those locations. Information's available on our website and a number of other sources as well. So look forward to seeing folks come out to those. I also wanted to mention that Douglas County received a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant to do a Douglas County Safety Action Plan. So excited to do that. We're part of the working group committee. So if this board's interested, I don't know if I think it covers CAMPO, Commissioner, but I don't know what to put you on the spot, but I think it includes all of Douglas County. We're not excluding portion of that.
Yes, you're correct. It covers all of Douglas County.
Okay. So that's perfect. That includes a portion of the Campo area as well as the Tahoe TRPA area. So looking forward to working with Douglas County on that. The last thing I wanted to mention, a little bit of a melancholy item, and I'll mention it here at Campo, is that Scott Bohemier's last day is tomorrow. He is retiring. He is retiring from service as the Safe Routes to School coordinator, effective tomorrow, essentially. He's done an outstanding job in all of our counties, including Story County, which is part of the Safe Routes area as well. And he will be missed tremendously for the outreach and activities that he has done going, the last several years. So thank you, Scott. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the work you've done on the Safe Routes program. I appreciate that. So I just wanted to recognize him for that, as well as tomorrow. So thank you. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Some good news and some bad news. Okay. That's the way the news is. Okay, moving on to our next item. Rebecca, anything new from NDOT at this point? Is there going to be a special session?
I'm hearing there may be as early as tomorrow. I don't know.
It was
hearing-
announced.
Oh,
It's
was
out.
it? Okay, so it is tomorrow?
I didn't catch that, but
Okay.
I didn't catch the date. The proclamation's out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a proclamation out. Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to, I know you guys already had this on your agenda, but I wanted to talk about the Campo US 50 East Complete Street Study. First, I want to thank Campo for your efforts on the US 50 Carson Complete Streets Corridor Study. I also want to recognize the importance of the public engagement, which you all talked about earlier. That went into the study. I know that takes a lot of effort, but it's really important. And our fellow Nevadans in the communities that we serve and their feedback that we identify throughout the studies and the improvements is valuable. And I just wanted to say thank you. We appreciate Campo's leadership and the regional study. I also want to mention that as you guys talked about today in the One Nevada Plan and this statewide transportation improvement program and the RTP, all the projects will, and the recommendations that came out of that study are going to be evaluated. And as Kelly had mentioned, we'll go through the One Nevada Plan and we'll look at that. And it's a great example of the safe systems approach to having that collaboration for our traveling public. So projects like this bring us all together so we can create a safe and functional transportation system for all. So thank you for that. And speaking of traffic safety, it is a top priority for us. As you know, I mention that almost every month. Tragically, there have been 4 traffic deaths in the Carson City area between January and October of this year. That's up from the same time last year where we had 3 in this area. Statewide, traffic fatalities are down just over 8% compared to the same time last year. Together, our goal is to ultimately have 0 fatalities, and we continue to work towards fewer deaths and serious injury crashes on our roadways. And this is important because we're going to start moving into the holiday season, and I want to remind all Carson City motorists to drive safely, and I want to remind all pedestrians and bicyclists to be predictable and visible to those drivers. As you can see, it's dark, and we leave our house when it's darker. And, Scott, congratulations on your retirement. He and I work together a lot with Safe Routes to School. And as you probably know, when you leave your house in the morning, it's dark and there's kids walking to their bus stops. So be mindful of that too. And the last topic subject I want to say on this is that our Zero Fatalities NV.com is a website that has very important traffic safety information, even for experienced drivers. And driving safely reminders can help us stay safer on the road, especially during this holiday season. So I just wanted to say that. And Chris also covered the next item I wanted to talk about, which is our Crash Responder Safety Week. One thing I want to add to that is that we are hosting events for Nevada school children to meet with the great Nevada responders and first response on the highway and maintenance equipment. So here in Carson City, that will include a truck school event at Seeliger Elementary and a couple other Montessori school. So the events are focused on having school children meet and greet Nevada first responders and view first response and highway maintenance equipment up close. Sometimes it's a good experience for them to have that good rapport and experience with first responders. So we're happy to be a part of that. Another topic I wanted to bring up, and I'm sorry I have a longer report this month, but I think this is really important. It's the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. You might know that as DBE goal. I want to take a moment to discuss a significant change that's come down from the U.S. Department of Transportation. NDOT, in collaboration with the Nevada Unified Certification Program, which is NUCP partners, certifies qualified small women and minority-owned businesses as disadvantaged business enterprises. You might know that as DBE. NDOT gets goals for DBE participation on both NDOT and local public agency or LPA transportation projects which utilize federal funding. Effective October 6th, the U.S. Department of Transportation implemented a new rule that temporarily removes the use of DBE goals in federally funded contracts nationwide. So every DBE nationwide was decertified and must apply to be evaluated and recertified under this new criteria. Our NDOT local public agency office has provided information on how this will impact our partners and our local public agency projects. So, to ensure compliance, DBE goals will be 0% for projects with bids that have not opened yet. But for contracts that are currently advertised, we have asked our local public agency project partners issue a supplemental to change their DBE goal. So DBE goals will continue to be an evolving topic, and our public local agency office will keep everyone updated on future changes related to NDOT coordinated LPA projects. And I know Chair Novak had asked me about our board meeting. November, we did not have a board meeting, but our next one is scheduled for December 8th. And that one's going to be a good meeting, so hopefully you can join in or listen in. And that concludes my report today, so thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Oh, thank you.
But go easy on me. No, I'm kidding.
NDOT snowplows last week, I think it was. So
We've
that's
been
coming up too.
It's coming up. We've been getting them all ready. So people think we haven't been, but we're getting everything ready.
Yep. Okay.
And yes, the special session is tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
My-
That
oh
was
my-
the rumor I had heard.
Yeah, that's a quick call.
Oh, I was asking, don't they have to do this? But I was told they can do whatever they want. Just proclaim it.
He did.
Good, and they can
Yes,
drive
10
through all
a.m.
their work zones. Okay.
Welcome to Carson
Good-
City.
good luck
We
making it
thought
to
we
the
were doing all
legislature.
this when you were out, so we can catch up, right?
Plan. Okay, move on to our next item, agenda item 6C. If there's any other comments or reports that Chris or any of the members have here. Okay, seeing none, I'll move to item 7, our final opportunity for public comment. So if anybody would like to speak up at this point, come on down. If not, we'll be having the RTC meeting 5 minutes later. Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Do this.
Sorry.
That's all right. Thanks so much. I'm going to call the Regional Transportation Commission to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Bagwell,
Here.
Vice Chair Schudy, Commissioner Dodson, Commissioner Maloney, Commissioner Novak,
Here.
quorum's present.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to agenda item 3, which is our opening public comment. I didn't see anyone signed up, but if you have some, come on up, Mark. And then on your way after, would you please sign in? Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Good evening. This is Mark Costa. I'm Carson City resident. This is something I just noticed in the agenda tonight, and I think it's an opportunity. There's a preservation project being considered tonight, a contract for designing a preservation. I think it's for Fairview and some other streets. What I want to point out is that this design project, I really didn't study the statement of work that the designer is going to do, but this is an opportunity. I talked about previously that there's new technology out there that's supposedly less expensive and more durable, lasts longer, and works better for, fixing or paving roads. So if they're going to be looking at preservation, perhaps they can go ahead and look at some of these new technology that's out there that might be able to give us more mileage for our dollars when we finally go ahead and decide to preserve these roads. Specifically, I've seen articles about fibrous substances that you can go ahead and use on roadways, last longer than, currently asphalt and the current methodology for doing that, and easier to apply, supposedly. There's more use of drones for this. For preserving roads, and it might be an opportunity to go ahead and have the drones, use them specifically for like filling potholes or cracks in the ground, and it might be less expensive to have them do it, than opposed to the traditional way of sending a crew out there. So unfortunately, I'm not prepared. I didn't review these new technologies. It was some months ago that I looked at it and talk to the board about that, but I'd like them to go ahead and keep that in mind when they're doing this design, as to take a look at some of these new technologies that have been proven in other countries. They've done some in the UK and Australia and places like that, and try and have us get more mileage for our dollars when we go ahead and preserve these roads. So thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other public comment? Okay, then I'm going to move on to agenda item 4A, which is approval of our minutes from September 10th. Do I have any corrections? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for approval.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. We're now going to move on to agenda item 5A. This is for discussion only. It's a presentation regarding the Carson City Public Works tree operation services, and I'm super excited to see this. happen. Justin, come on up and give us the wow when people figure out all the trees and stuff we have. It is a wow.
No, it's cool stuff, cool stuff. Thanks for having me. Justin Tierney, Operations Manager for Public Works. So, Chair and Board, thanks for having me. I'm just going to talk about our tree program through Public Works, through the Streets Department. So it's a quick presentation, so hopefully not too many questions.
Oh, we're going to keep you here all night.
I know.
Yeah.
This presentation is going to be slightly different from your guys' packet. I added 2 slides at the end. It's just 2 pictures, 2 slides with pictures on them. I already got some heat from Martinovich, so some late material here, so sorry about that. All right, let's go. Maybe. Maybe. All right. Okay, so I just threw this slide in. Not only is it cool, but there's that's our bicentennial tree there. So this slide was back in the 1940s is when this picture was taken. That picture on the left there with the train. So I just thought it was a good picture. It is our bicentennial tree. It's a Fremont cottonwood, and it was designated the bicentennial tree back in 1976. But very cool. You can see that branch that goes over the train there. You can actually see the wound on that tree right now where it used to go over. So anyways, I just thought it was a cool picture for everybody to see. All right. This was just a slide. As everybody knows, trees come with many benefits. They are aesthetically pleasing. They create memories, provide shade, reduce energy costs, and increase property values. On the environmental side, they improve air and water quality, reduce stormwater and runoff, and absorb that carbon dioxide that we don't like. So these are well-known facts there. So there are currently 4 staff members who are all certified ISA tree arborists here at Public Works. One who is also certified as a tree risk assessment. He can do tree risk assessments, and he's also a certified tree climber. For these guys to keep their certification, the ISA requires that they earn 30 CEU credits every 3 years. So they're constantly attending classes and training to stay up to date, or training to stay up to date. Currently, Public Works tree crew consists of only 2 staff members who care for all of the trees in the right-of-way. So it's kind of the guys are doing what they can out there, and you'll see how we kind of break that up as far as doing maintenance and inspections. The city uses a software called Tree Keeper that we use to manage the urban forests and the park trees. Tree Keeper is a powerful tool that has many capabilities. You can attach photos, work planning, reporting, search data. It even calculates an ecosystem, which is, I'll show you on a slide coming up here. But a lot of capabilities on it. It's very cool. The tree crew uses that every day to do work on the trees throughout the city. All right. So in Tree Keeper, there's a section that gives you the benefits of our city trees, like I just said. This slide shows that the benefits over the next 20 years. So these numbers are over 20 years, the benefits that all of our trees throughout the city will give us. So currently, 6,802 city trees are documented within the city. So that's park trees as well. Obviously, doesn't include any of the private trees that we have. So quite a few trees.
Do you think there's as many of those private trees too?
There's got to be more, I would think.
Right? Tons more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Thanks.
No, definitely very cool. Oh, oh, oh. I went too far. How do I go back? Oh, there we go. So this graph comes out of Tree Keeper as well. I just threw it in there. I thought it was kind of cool. This graph shows the count of the top 25 trees in our city. So the winner, what do you think, Mayor?
Oh, a cottonwood, of course. Most tree type
Yeah, tree types. What do you think?
is the number one tree in Carson City that we own.
Kind of blew me away too.
Cottonwoods. It has to-
Cottonwoods are close. So
Oh, what's the number one?
pines.
Which
The
one?
pines are actually number one. So all the Austrian, Ponderosa, Scotch,
Oh,
and
pine.
Jeffrey.
Oh,
Yeah,
collectively
yeah,
pines. Okay.
So there's
Wow.
1,042 of those. The Siberian and American elms were second with 612. Third place is the maple with the Amur, silver in Norway. There's 489 of those.
Wow.
And fourth is the cottonwoods. They came in fourth, 382. And the oak trees came in fifth at 372, which I thought was interesting because you don't really see too many oaks. Any questions?
I love maples, so
Yeah,
keep going.
a lot
I
of
do. They're
maples.
beautiful. Who doesn't like October with the maple trees turning colors?
So here is a map of, it's a reference map for all of our supervisors and the tree crew. Unfortunately, with the crew of two, we're more reactive than proactive. So we sectioned off areas of town to help manage the areas. As you can see right now, we're kind of in that bottom left corner, working all those trees. Of course, any emergency, any things that come up, we're always running around trying to take care of that stuff too. All right, here's the slides that you guys don't have. So these are cottonwoods that we ended up taking down. Sometimes you're walking around, these trees look healthy from the bottom, until you get up top, you can see that second picture over from he's up in the bucket truck there. Sometimes you don't see that stuff. So you get an open wound or in the crotch of the tree, some decay in there, and that's what happens. I mean, that tree was hollow all the way through, and you would never know it just walking by it. So that's kind of some of the scary stuff that we deal with. Also, I mean, that bottom left picture is just the picture of our right-of-way in that area. A lot of these trees were, when I started here 21 years ago, were, hey, yep, this is a city tree. Well, whose tree is it? Who planted that tree? That tree was over there, right there in Washington and Nevada. So unfortunately, we've taken on a lot of these trees, which is good. They're being taken care of, but a lot of them are mature, and unfortunately, some look like this, So when we find these trees, obviously those are scary, and we got to remove them. So, and then the second slide is kind of the same thing. This is right over here on Division, just north of King Street. Same thing. Walking by, the only thing holding that thing up is the bark right there. So as you can see, when he cut into the bottom of it to fall the rest of the tree, I mean, it's hollow all the way down to the bottom. So some of the scary stuff that the guys are dealing with, and with public walking by, can also be scary, so. But basically that
Is
is,
that normal with the age of the tree and things that cause it to hollow out like that? I
I
mean,
think, you know, how mature they are, the age. A lot of them have, I mean, how many wounds have happened, you know? That tree from the bicentennial tree, how many different wounds, how many branches have fallen off to where it's recovered? So I think a lot of it has to do with a wound or something happened to it, some type of damage when it was growing, and then that invites all that decay in there, so. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
weather events,
Weather.
does weather events cause wounds? I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
another tree branch blowing
yeah,
into a tree, things
the
like that.
wind blows a branch
Right.
off and breaks it off, at that point, there's a wound, you know, so.
Okay.
It's hard to say. Just, it's happening, you know, it happens.
Interesting. Okay, does anybody else have any questions or comments? Greg?
No, I'm glad you're making the presentation. You guys do important work there. Any rough idea how many of the trees are in the right of way versus in the parks?
If I had the program up, I could pull that up for you, but I do not offhand. I would guess that there's a good probably 2,000 to 3, you know, it might be half, right around in there.
Right. Okay.
So parks, they just recently inventoried all of their stuff on there, so all of their different, I think they got 50 different areas throughout town that they're taking care of, you know, so a lot to deal with, but they're up there. They got quite a few.
Right. And I don't think RTC has any landscaping requirements on any of our projects that would give you more trees or other policies like that.
Not that we do from this body, just in the regular development standards that deal with landscape.
Okay, thanks.
A lot of these trees too, they don't have water running to them.
You wonder how they ever got built without water.
You know,
Yeah.
you wonder in some of the landscape, it's like, how did this thing grow? They're tapped into the groundwater now, but, you know, like this section here is in the landscape with the grass and all that stuff and is getting water all the time. But there's a lot that aren't, that are doing just fine. But it makes it hard for replanting, you know, when you go into an area and
That's a good
a tree like this dies and say that grass wasn't there, it's not an area that we would put a tree back into just because there's no water source. So it's
Makes
tricky.
sense.
A lot of spots around town. Lifted concrete, dealing with a lot of lifted concrete right now from all the mature trees. So a lot of root damage. We try to do our best with removing the concrete, root pruning, trying to put some type of root barrier down to where we can get more years out of it. But we really inspect these trees, especially when there's root pruning involved and new concrete work. I mean, if it's anything like this, it's time to go, unfortunately. And unfortunately, a lot of the people, you know, walking by, they don't really see what we see.
They can't
inside
see
of
the
them.
damage to
Yeah.
the interior of the
Yeah.
tree. Right.
We tried to, you know, we might have left this stump like that for weeks, just so, hey, we're not just cutting this down because, but here's what was going on in there, so.
Interesting. Ms. Maloney?
I promised Justin I would ask lots of questions. No, just one question. This is fantastic. Thanks for bringing this. If you said you're mostly response driven, how would the public help your efforts if they were interested in this or if they had a concern? Where do they go?
As far as just calling in and, yeah,
How do
calling
you
in Public
recommend the
Works.
staff? They call?
Yeah,
Okay.
calling, that's what you're asking, right? As far as maintenance wise, or,
What is the most efficient way for the public to?
Yeah. absolutely. There's
Carson
Carson
Connect.
Connect. there's Carson
Carson
Connect.
Connect.
Carson Connect.
They
Take
can
the
call
picture
in.
of the tree so
Yeah.
you know exactly where it's at.
Yes, Carson
you.
Connect is good. That way they can take pictures and really put a descriptive note in there for us. And we're on that stuff daily. I mean, anything like that, those guys will go check it out and see what we need to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? We're good? Okay. Thank you so much. It was very informative. I think people would be surprised to see the trees that are just like hollow.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're not getting injuries of people with trees falling over onto their cars and yikes.
So
That
our
kind of was
guys,
scary.
they do inspections. So, I mean, we see something like that, we take care of it pretty quickly. Obviously, it's a safety hazard. So that's not something that we'll leave up there, you know. But yeah, it can be scary.
Yeah.
And
Please thank the team for their team of two for the great job they're
I
doing.
actually have one quick question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you work in alignment with Parks and Rec? So I see there's 4 certified, ISA certified tree arborists. The other 2, I assume they're with Parks and Rec?
no, so those are all in streets.
All in streets,
Yeah.
but they're just not assigned to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
great.
when I was the street foreman, I actually got certified, so I'm one of them. And then we have the 2 that are currently working on the crew. We have another guy that he was part of the crew, and now he's taking care of all the weed spraying and all that stuff. So,
Great.
yeah, a lot of knowledge there.
A lot of
I know
knowledge.
Parks, they do have a new certified arborist over there, so, which is cool, very cool. It's a lot of good training, and the test is hard over there, so there's a lot of good information that
Fantastic.
you learn, so.
Thank
Actually,
you.
I just have one question because I saw in there that you said you had a tree climber.
Yes.
So when you showed us the tree that had the, I don't know if I want to call it an infection, that sounds terrible, but the infection up top, so are you flying drones or doing things that look at the trees from the top of the tree down to see if it's infected?
No.
Or your tree climber is doing all this
So
work?
he is certified tree climber, but I think he's climbed a tree, maybe it was probably 5 years ago that I've seen, because our bucket truck was down. So that you can see the bucket truck down there in that second picture. So
That's how you're doing it,
that's what we use. It's safe.
safer.
It goes up 80 foot. We can fly up, take care of things quickly. They're all harnessed off. It's a great tool to have. And we're able to-
Versus actually sending them up the
Yeah,
tree.
yeah, obviously that's a little more time consuming, and, yeah, so that's the tool that we use.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you so much.
Yep.
Really, really appreciate the presentation.
oh, I didn't even have, sorry, let me just show you real quick. There's the bucket truck down
Oh,
in
on
there,
this- Yeah.
yeah, so, cool. Thank you.
Okay. We're now then gonna move on to agenda item 5B, which is discussion and possible action on the authority to buy a couple of buses for a mere $1.254,698. I know, it's hard to even spit out, wasn't it? So with that, Marcus, thank you, just anything special about these buses or anything you want to talk about?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Marcus Myers, Transit Coordinator. I just add that the 2 buses being replaced were identified in the approved Transit Asset Management Plan, and there is sufficient funding in the Transit Funds Vehicle Purchase Account. Jack doesn't currently operate any Gillig buses, but Tahoe Transportation District does, and my understanding is that they're very happy with Gilligs. So we look forward to the potential of having our own.
Perfect. Does any member have a question?
I guess we're gonna approve it probably, but it takes a while to get here, right? What's the time lag on actually driving the bus in Carson City?
So the quote specifies 20 to 24 months before production begins.
Yeah, before it starts getting built.
And I believe it was,
I'll mention, I was going to jump in, the production window is 10 days.
Oh, Gillig's caught up?
Yeah, once they start producing the buses, it takes them 10 days to roll off the assembly line.
Oh, once they start the production, not that it's going to start in 10 days.
No,
Two
once
different
they
things.
stop, in 20 months, when they start production.
Yes, it's 10 days.
It's 10 days and the
It's
bus
10
is
days
completed.
for a bus to come
Yes.
off. Okay. Oh, I liked the other answer better. Sorry. You got me excited and then took it all away. Okay. Thank you so much. Nobody else is, and I did check, because I serve on TDD, and so I did have the opportunity with Mr. Fink. We're still loving the Gilligs, and the answer is yes. So I feel
glad to hear.
comfortable doing Gilligs. So, anybody else? Is there any public comment on this item? No? Okay, I'll take a motion then. Mr. Dotson.
I move to authorize the purchase authority as presented and authorize the transportation manager to approve expenditure of 10% of contingency if needed.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you so much. We'll keep working you hard there. 24 months, 10 days. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to agenda item 5C. This is discussion and possible action on a contract for Atkins Realis to provide design services for District 3. Mr. Dotson, may I have your disclosure, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. NRS 281A 420 requires me to disclose a conflict of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. This item involves a contract with Atkins Realis USA. For the last few years, I've been employed by Atkins on a part-time periodic basis. Although my work for Atkins is infrequent, I still have a non-de minimis pecuniary interest in maintaining that private employment. Additionally, under NRS 281A 065, I am deemed to have a commitment in a private capacity to the interests of my private employer. Because the judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be materially affected by this relationship, I have a disqualifying conflict and will not be voting on this matter.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, Casey, are you going to give us some highlights of this particular one? And can you also speak to the public comment, whether or not this design contract can include or does include any other opportunities for other product? Just because we had some comment on this one, please.
Yeah, I can try to give a response for that. So just to start off, this design contract is for two separate projects will be being designed both by Atkins Realis, and they are on different design schedules also. So we have the Butt Eye Way Preservation Project, which includes Butt Eye and Airport Road. That project was part of the proposals from June that you guys took a look at that time. And we also have the Fairview Drive Preservation Project, which is the Fairview Drive portion of the project from June. However, that also includes the safety project that was previously presented on for intersections on College Parkway and Fairview Drive to do safety improvements. And so that will be spun into the Fairview Drive project, as the Fairview Drive project is slightly more intensive and involves use of federal funds and the different logistics that come with that. It will be on a little bit longer schedule. So the Butt Eye project, which is, so the cost specific to the Butt Eye project will be $138,000, and it's planned to advertise in April. So we're going to move pretty quickly on that one. The Fairview project has a total cost of $243,000, and like I said, includes all those safety intersections. And so that project is, make sure I get this correct, is going to advertise in December of next year, of 2026. So that's all of the information for the contracts. As to answering the question that was brought forward by Mr. Costa. This project is a preservation project, and we have typical materials we would usually use. However, at this stage in design, it is not too late for us to consider other products, and that's certainly something we can talk about with our consultant as the project moves forward, and pending a number of factors, including cost and what's appropriate for each of these roads, a decision can be made at during the design of this project.
I think that's wonderful. I think that, I don't know, I went to a meeting last night that really dealt with cancer treatments and everything and how much has changed over 20 years or 25 years. And so I have to imagine that many entities, not just Carson City, struggle with preservation of roadways, right? And so I'm very interested in, is there really technologies that are coming out that are more advantageous? And not that we would be the first to try something, but we certainly shouldn't be the last to try something. And so I'm very interested in that. That's good news that hopefully this particular firm is up on all those technologies that are out there and that we could potentially utilize if it makes sense and cost effective, right? Sometimes new technologies are, yeah, that's great. It's 9 times as much. We might get 2 more years out of it, but it's 9 times as much. So anyway, I look forward to the designs when these come in to see if there was anything advantageous we could take advantage of. So does any other member have a question on this, or except for Mr. Dotson? No? Okay, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back up here for a motion.
Okay,
Great.
I can make the motion, but my initial comment was pavement preservation project shouldn't need that detailed a design, but I guess at this point, that's the way we're still doing business, but,
Oh, because you think,
yep.
because they're cookie more, I did come out
It
right.
should be straightforward, but I guess.
Yeah, cookie cutter or more straightforward.
Yeah,
Okay.
but with that, I think the staff will do a good job overseeing the contract. So I move to approve the contract as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. And any abstentions?
Abstain.
Let the record reflect it was 4 yeses, 1 abstention by Mr. Dotson.
And Madam Chair, who seconded?
Ms. Maloney. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 5D. This is discussion and possible action on a federal access program project agreement for our Ash Canyon and Trailhead project. Casey, still there. Can you give us some highlights of this, please?
Yes, so as you probably recall, we were awarded, we were shortlisted for scoping of projects. That scoping effort took place over the course of the spring and the summer, and then in August, the Central Federal Lands took all of the projects they were scoping out forward to their board that they, their word is escaping me, but they have a, some sort of a body that they go before that approves their decisions. And that was approved for our project was included with the scope that was put together during the summer, and that's moving forward. So this memorandum of agreement is simply formalizing responsibilities between Federal Highways, the Forest Service, and Carson City during the design. And as previously discussed, Federal Highways is taking the bulk of the effort on this. We provide oversight. We'll be providing insight and suggestions on the design. But for the most part, the work of the designing and advertising the project is all going to be on federal lands. And so this is the agreement to formalize that.
And they gave us an extra $1 million, right?
Yes, well, part of the reason for that is that they're accounting for fuel escalation and inflation. And so that pushes it up quite a bit. And so it looks like we're getting a lot more, and we are, but the scope isn't really expanding.
It just might guarantee us so that the project doesn't get cut down.
Precisely.
That's right, that we have enough to actually implement the project. That's fantastic. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this? Pretty straightforward. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, I'll accept a motion for approval.
I move to approve the MOA as presented and to authorize the transportation manager to execute the MOA.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, we're cooking, you guys. We're up to 5E. Discussion and possible action on development of the Carson City Access Management Plan. Casey, you are in a good chair there. Give us some highlights or what you're trying to do here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Casey Sylvester, Transportation and Traffic Engineer, here to present on access management. What is access management? The organization of side streets and driveways to optimize movements, or put simply, how vehicles enter and exit the roadway. When we do access management well, it reduces conflict points and weaving and influences driver behavior. Access management includes auxiliary lanes, turn restrictions, design and spacing of driveways, and intersections. Access management has come before the RTC before. Previously, in December of 2022, staff spoke on access management and covered similar concerns to what I will cover tonight. At that time, staff planned to begin work to develop an access management policy. So why access management? A road with many access points will have longer and less reliable travel times and is generally less safe. Inversely, fewer access points lead to better safety and reliability with less travel time. To meet the need to provide access, typically higher classification roads have fewer access points and more efficient mobility. Lower classification roads provide maximum access, but typically have lower speeds. We're looking into updates because there's no basis to require developments to make smart access management decisions if it is not in code. Staff can comment, but cannot make requirements. Safety and congestion are impacted. Traffic impact studies may make a requirement, but usually only for extreme cases. Good, robust guidance will ensure the city can get the correct outcomes. Based upon guidance from FHWA, the Transportation Research Board, and other agencies, this is a compiled list of categories that might be included in access management, and if and where Carson City has that in code. This list also includes what NDOT, RTC Washoe, and the City of Reno are doing for comparison. Carson City is doing driveway spacing, sight distance, turn lane sizing, median opening eligibility, driveway design, and right-of-way management. NDOT is doing most of these, with nearly all of it covered in the 2017 Access Management System and Standards. Between the City of Reno and RTC Washoe, they are doing most of these things. Staff recommend that Carson City address the missing categories. Staff recommend that the city develop guidance for the missing sections: spacing by intersection control type, auxiliary lane anatomy, acceleration lane sizing, median turn restrictions, and network connectivity. There are two approaches to updating. We can add text to city code for the missing sections, or we can develop an access management policy to provide the missing sections and explain access management as a whole. This policy would augment city code. Both approaches require Board of Supervisors approval. Staff plan to begin development of the missing sections and proposed modifications. Staff will return to the RTC for comments and direction when those sections are drafted, and then eventually the updates would go before the Board of Supervisors. Are there any questions?
Can you go back to the chart that has the yeses and the nos? Yeah.
This one?
So your recommendation is to get a yes on everything in the Carson City line,
Yes.
of which, so if I were to look at network connectivity, no one else has it, so we would be the first to have it?
So the network connectivity is one that was recommended, I believe, in the Transportation Research Board list of potential items that are part of access management. I would have to probably do a little bit more of a deep dive. I would say that RTC Washoe and Reno probably have something in their code, but it's not in the same place that the rest of their access management is at. And so it's more, I would say that that one is probably, it's least critical because it's something that's happening naturally. Part of the process of access management is on a high classification road, something that's an arterial, you have your driveways more spaced out, but you have to give every parcel access. It's in Carson City Code that you have to. It's something that as a transportation network, we should be striving to do. We're providing network and mobility for folks. And so that only makes sense to do. And so part of network connectivity is if they don't have a driveway on a major street, they have to have a minor street that folks can access with their vehicles that they can then access that parcel from. And so simply the wording that's in code already that requires that every parcel be given public access if it has a road fronting it is probably sufficient to meet this. But I would say that there could be room for us to make modifications or changes to that.
I'm trying to understand what it is that you think you need in code that you don't currently have. And can you give me some example then of, because your indication here is we can't tell someone no, or we can't tell someone no basis for requiring a project to follow what's not in code. Give me an example of something that you would have done, but you couldn't do because it wasn't in code. Why are we going down this path? Give me a couple of examples.
So I think that you're making a good point that if I kind of talked myself in a circle that we probably don't especially need this section based upon the information, and maybe if we have a policy that we put together, that this is something we talk about, we state, the same sorts of things. Every parcel deserves access when it's possible. The access comes from a lower classification road. I guess that's probably the main point.
That's
Access
what you're
comes
trying
from
to
a
get to.
lower classification road when possible. I also think that, depending on the size of the development, there could be a need where they could have multiple driveways. We say, oh, our code says you only get access from the lowest access road, but because this is a, whatever it is, a super center, shopping center or something, there's going to be an additional driveway and it can go on, it can access onto a different road. And so how do you define what those rules are for when somebody does get a second driveway, when they don't, and things like that. And as I mentioned in the slides, some of these things are covered in traffic impact studies, but one of the things that happens in a traffic impact study is that the guiding principle on what's going to happen on the traffic impact study is going to be level of service and delay. And so adding more driveways is never going to be bad for a traffic impact study. So a traffic impact study can then recommend any number of things, which most of the cases is not going to be a problem. But we also, especially with our spacing and things like that, driveways have to be spaced by certain distances, but in some cases it would provide us an opportunity to say, no, this thing that you're providing, this is going to be bad for our access management. We're not going to allow you to have access on this side, or we're not going to allow you to have two accesses on this side because you already have accesses on these other sides and things like that.
So, wait a second. So this document then you're saying might give you the authority to come up with a different recommendation than the traffic study?
It gives, if we have information in our code that explains how we want things and where we want thresholds and limits to be, then if a traffic impact study suggests something that we don't like, we have a very clear cut, that's a violation of our code. And it's not, it's not a judgment call. It's straightforward. The code is this, the code says black and white, and this is a violation of the code, and this is
You
not.
don't necessarily get the why, but yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm thinking. Go ahead.
We've been talking about this for many years, and I'm thrilled you're bringing it. In my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I understood network connectivity a little bit different than you explained it, Casey. This item came up heavily, for an example, Mayor, during the Anderson Ranch discussions. So staff, and as a matter of policy, we have said in Carson City, it is more efficient to maintain our roads, and it is safer and it is better, if you will, when all of our roads connect. And particularly when you have larger parcels in Carson City where development is occurring, we have a policy that we want those new roads to connect. And what happened or has happened in the past, including in that example, staff have asked for connectivity. However, there was nothing in the code or in policy to tell the developers it's required. And as a consequence, when expectations are uncertain, it increases project costs and is not good for business in Carson City. And so back in the day when this project was started, the intent was to set expectations for connectivity to the network more broadly under this category, as has been sort of implemented through an unwritten policy over the past many years.
I really appreciate you bringing that up, and that's something that I've
And that is why it's
noticed
on your list.
before.
I'm pretty sure.
And we've had things come up before where development came in on one phase where they showed a connecting road, and they started the next phase, and they said, "Oh, we actually our traffic impact study says we don't need this connection here, and we want to just remove that connection, and we'll convert that to a lot. We'll change the utilities that are going through it, and send the water through a different place, and we can build another lot onto that." And but there are benefits beyond the simple delays and things that we evaluate, which are important for sure, very important aspects to evaluate. But we had no basis to tell them, no, we want to keep that connection road. And so this this particular one that I'm bringing up was not in Anderson Ranch, but Anderson Ranch is a nice opportunity where there's neighborhoods to the south, there's neighborhoods to the north, and they all connect. And when vehicles have many places to go, then they spread out more. You get lower, sorry, not to get into the technical terms, you get lower just traffic, pavement impacts from axle loads and things like that because the cars are all spreading out. And there's some benefit to that.
So let me ask this then in an opposite direction. If we were to implement something like this and had this network connectivity and things like that, but I have a traffic report, if I have a requirement, this would not then the traffic report be forced to meet our code?
Exactly.
So we wouldn't be in conflict? I guess I'm really interested in not having two conflicting reports coming out that the developer gets something that says, here's the traffic impact, and you have to make sure you have level of service of D or greater. And so to accomplish this, these are the things you need to do for your project. So if we had some more yeses in here, then those traffic studies would have to accommodate our yes?
Yeah, it would influence the traffic study. It would help influence them. And I think that one of my talking points, I sort of said that robust guidance helps us get correct outcomes. Sometimes and not that I've ever been a practitioner on the outside doing traffic impact studies, but they're doing traffic impact studies in multiple jurisdictions, and they're saying, what's required in this one? Well, we better include this. What's required in this one? Well, all of a sudden they get to Carson City and whoa, we don't have any of these requirements. Well, I guess we've never had to think about this before because every municipality we've dealt with has had us have this requirement, or they've had unique things. Maybe not everyone had this one, but everyone did this or this or this or something like that. And that, when they see that we don't have code for it, they're going to say, oh, Carson City doesn't mind if we don't do that. Carson City doesn't mind if we don't do this. We don't need to bring that up. And then it goes on. And so when we provide robust guidance, it helps them say, oh, yep, this is something that we need to consider in this case. And we don't want to maybe we do. This is for you guys to decide. But we could decide how far, one way or the other, we want to go as far as how much guidance we're providing, how much freedom we're providing to the developers. And so, as a matter of fact, these other agencies that we brought up are not doing network connectivity to the extent of the research that I had done. However, there is some basis for doing it, and so we brought it up, and it's certainly a worthwhile conversation to have.
Casey, I think I probably instigated this one, but I also got NDOT to do theirs many years ago. And it helps you in the long run. And I don't know if we've got any good examples or bad examples around town, like this is a street that had access management and here's one that didn't. So, as you go through, I think that would help explain it to everybody. And, we're kind of looking at vehicular access, but do you need anything to consider bicycles or pedestrians as well getting to properties? Because, you don't always need the sidewalk right along the roadway if there's other ways to get in and out of property. So pedestrian circulation, if you can touch on that, that would help quite a bit.
Yeah, I think we could definitely include that.
And I don't know if it's under access management or something else that RTC deals with, but some of our developments through the years have only one way in or out. And maybe that's part of your network connectivity discussion. It doesn't have to be a paved permanent roadway, but if there's emergency access, maybe that's worth considering as well.
We have code that deals with that in we just did all of our development
Yep.
standard. I think Lisa and I are up to, I don't know how many pages of reading and amending, but anyway, we
Well,
definitely have that point, and that's an interesting discussion even with the public, because we could take Anderson Ranch as a great example, because we did force roads to cut through, right? And very unhappy people that, I don't want that road coming through because now my quiet little street's gonna have people coming on it. But it was the right thing to do for just the discussion we were having, is you have to spread the traffic out. You don't want to concentrate it just on two little side streets.
The fire evacuation.
Well,
that was
that's what I
perfect
said.
as
It's the
well.
right thing to do. So we do have code that covers that access point stuff, because we did indeed do that.
I think that
on
is
that.
the flip side of that coin. Sometimes, I had a discussion with another staff member about this recently. There was a large apartment development. Fire code said that they had to have two accesses, but one of them could be a gated access. And transportation doesn't have any basis for requiring more than one access if the traffic impact study says the delays are low enough. But at the same time, from both a pavement impact from number of vehicles, as well as what happens, there's a term called travel time reliability that refers to what your travel time's like and if it's consistent. And if you have only one exit and entrance, and there's any sort of a fender bender or something that happens, everybody in that apartment complex is delayed. And so I'm not sure why we wouldn't require something large that has hundreds of homes in it to have a second access that's not just gated, but that's open to the public. Not to say that fire shouldn't have a gated access. I don't want to take that from them. I think there's value in that, but I don't know why we wouldn't require a second access in that case. And maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't, but it was just kind of an odd thing to see.
Well, I think it's an overall larger discussion than just RTC. I mean, I think that it is just actually the whole development standards and looking across the system, because if you do something over here, it will impact something on another spectrum, right? And so for me, I'm okay with us looking from the perspective of transportation, what's the right thing to do, and then running that through the other sectors to see where it sets up conflicts or it marries correctly, right? So I don't have an issue with you guys looking at access management. I'm just not going to tell you that it means automatically we're going to support everything that you come up with, because we have to marry
Absolutely.
it to the whole system.
Mhm.
And I'm going to guess there's some reasons some of these other jurisdictions don't have yeses. Why isn't everyone a yes down this list? It's probably a little more complex than potentially just a 8-page, yay, here's our access management rules. Somehow I'm betting there's more to this, but I really appreciate that you're, from this perspective, trying to tackle it. I think it's the right thing to do, because again, we can't ever have a larger discussion if we don't start with something. So, good job. Anybody else?
I will
Greg?
make the motion.
Wait,
Oh.
we can't do that until I do something else. I always have to take public comment before we ever take a motion. He's a chair, you know this. He's like, it's late, we want to go. So is there any public comment on this item? He knew there was going to be none, but that's okay. I'll technically ask it and keep the lawyer in the house happy. Okay, no other comment from anyone? We're ready? Everybody's ready for a motion? Hold on, let me get the staff. So I just want to be clear on the motion because I also don't want any, right? I don't want any misunderstandings of where we're going or what we're doing. So you're just asking us to give you the authority to work on a document.
That's right.
Okay,
And
I just
we'll
wanna
bring it
make-
back later, yes.
Right, just, I want to put it on the record so everyone is clear. It's just saying, yes, it's worthy of your time for RTC to create it.
Yeah, I think it's also a question of, are we trying to, well, I guess it's not, we talked about. So we can develop a policy or that's like a separate document, or we can just have revision and codes. And so direction on that, whether it's now or at the next time it comes around, is something we're also kind of looking for.
Right, you don't know the final direction this is gonna take. You've got some options that you're gonna work on and bring back to us, and no matter what we say, it goes to the Board of Supervisors. So I think there's enough time or enough discussion back and forth.
I think it gives us a really good starting point.
Which answer gave us a really good starting point?
Well, I
Are we
think-
asking them to bring us back potential code amendments or a policy? I think those are two different things.
The way it's in the staff report is it's a comprehensive look of policies, standards, and resources, and them coming back with a plan
With a
that would
plan.
cover the topics included in the staff report. Is that right?
If I may, Madam
Yeah,
Chair.
what are you asking for?
We are,
Let's get that on the record.
to Casey's point, we're not ready to decide how we're going to implement this plan. This plan could be implemented one of two ways. It could be implemented directly through code, or it could be implemented through an adoption of a plan policy, similar to our speed limit policy as an example. So if we're not ready to have that discussion tonight, that's totally fine. But what we're going to do is depending on this motion, what we're looking for is direction on what elements should we incorporate. We've talked about those. Now we're going to take that and start looking at what should we do, what are some options, what are some best practices, bring those back to you all for input and feedback, and at that time we can discuss what do we do with this from here? How does it go forward? Whatever comes out of that discussion, how does it get implemented?
Okay, I'm ready. I just don't like the word plan, so, because there's no plan we're approving. It's to let you to study it and bring back, huh? I got it.
Could we say development of a plan?
Yes, I like that better. I like that much better. Yes, I like that. That's good. Thank you. He's writing that down. You ready?
Yeah, let's see if I got it right.
All
too.
right, go for it, Greg.
Okay. I move to approve the recommendations for the development of the plan as presented.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you for that. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 6A. Chris, got anything to share with us?
I'll share that quickly, that William Street is continuing. Just please pay attention to the changes in traffic control. Roop Street's been closed the last couple of days. I think it'll be open up later this week. As progress continues, we'll see those periodic closures of Roop and Stewart and eventually Solomon here coming up as we work to the east. So that was the one thing I wanted to highlight in my transportation manager's report, but I'm happy to ask questions or answer questions. I don't have any questions to ask.
We're moving on to 6B, our operations report. We had a great
Thank you, Madam
presentation
Chair.
on
Yeah,
the tree
with trees,
portion.
there's a whole section there.
Yeah.
Second column into this, we have both August and September's reports. Tree operations. I forget the quantities off the top of my head. I think it's activities, like how many times they do something on a tree. So it's 195 trees serviced in that time, 6 trees removed in the month of August, 31 pruning operations on trees in in September and 2 trees removed in September, just to highlight the tree section of the report pertinent to our item 5A.
You know what else? I really like the work order one that we have now that's in the report. I think it begins to again tell the story of the workload that our staff has, and how responsive they really are. And so I just want to say kudos, and that I just like information because I can't help myself. But thank you for that report. And again, please stress to staff that nothing in these reports goes unnoticed. And I know all of you do too. But it's near and dear to my heart to see data, and that it's not, sometimes you get a complaint, well, why is there 3 people there at this open hole? And I'm like, for safety, what are you talking about? Because they don't understand the processes or what's necessary to keep some of our public works staff very safe, right? And that's an objective, but I think that these reports begin to tell more stories for the public to understand how vast your jobs really are. So again, kudos and thanks for the report. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Maloney?
Just one comment for street operations. I'm super neurotic about when yellow lines are painted on the manhole covers and then the manholes are removed and put back on, but they're angled. My brain, it zings in annoyance. And whoever is doing that right now, all of them are right in line with the paint, and it is awesome. Whoever is working on that, they're doing an awesome job. So kudos there too.
We might have to have a new award. Who's the best? Yeah, aligner. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Everybody's okay? We'll move on to agenda item 6C, which is just any other future agenda items or comments, and our lovely fuel tax reports. Looking like.
Madam Chair, we do have the fuel tax report. I'll just note that this includes, I know we didn't have a meeting last month, so this does include the first couple of months of fiscal year 26. I'm pleased to see the diesel and gasoline gallons sold. That's a good sign for transportation funding, as well as the sales tax, which is our street maintenance fund. That's a good sign as well. So fingers crossed there over the long term. And then we also have our project status report, and I'm sure Casey's available for questions, but otherwise we can walk through it at your discretion.
Is there a particular project that anyone would like to have a question on or a highlight? Again, I think this report is probably one that I utilize the most in the public, who, wants to talk about our road money or anything else. I say, what are you talking about? Look at all the work we're doing, because this shows them all the different funding sources that are being utilized to accomplish the projects, and then how many are going on at any given time. It might be in different phases, but I think from our earlier discussion too, that it shows how long it takes once we've made a decision to do a road. No, that's not next month that it's starting. It then goes into design and So I really love these, because again, I think it gives people perspectives when they can come back and go, oh my gosh, that project is 4 years old or 3. So thank you. I think we can never get rid of this one because it shows the public, but.
Mayor,
Sure.
one of the things to point out on these projects, along with NDOT projects, I think staff is adjusting the schedules, so things are done in the right order at the right time and delaying things. So we only, something doesn't get dug up after we just repaved it. So there's a lot of coordination that goes on that is not really evident all the time, but when you put it all together, you say, yeah, these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm really proud. I even did a verification on one because I know we're going to do our courthouse remodel and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to build the Roop Street right in front of it. And here comes the heavy trucks with wood and everything else. It's going to ruin my brand-new road, but I was assured that all the timing and all the stuff is, like you said, well thought out and won't ruin the good work with doing that project, because it's nothing worse than putting it in and cutting it up in the first year. So, great job. Okay, then we'll move to final public comment. No one? No one? Okay. Then if there's no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you for a good night. Good job.